On today's episode of Locked On Mets, I will talk about why Nick Castellanos is the worst signing the Mets could make this offseason.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're listening to Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. Locked On Mets is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Now, on today's show, I want to talk about a free agent that I know Mets fans are very excited about, Nick Castellanos. This is a guy that just had a 100 RBI season, makes a lot of sense to plug into the middle of the Mets lineup. But on today's show, I'm going to talk about why this is not the free agent the Mets should be targeting. In the first segment, I'll talk about Castellanos' big season, what he's done throughout his career, why he could make sense in the middle of the Mets lineup. But in the second segment, I'll get into the stark home road splits that had Castellanos putting up ridiculous home run numbers the past couple of years in Cincinnati and compare that to Michael Conforto and how the ballpark can really affect the perception you have on a specific player. Then the last segment, I'll talk about the big elephant in the room. That's the fact that Castellanos can't play the outfield, and that's what you would be signing him to do. Before we get to any of that, though, I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing about the Mets at justbaseball.com. Now, when I say that Nick Castellanos might be the worst signing the Mets could make this offseason, it's not because he's a bad hitter. It's not because he wouldn't help the Mets in some capacity next year. This guy can rake. I'm not taking anything away from him. For me, it's about the fit. It's about the years he's going to get, the money he's going to command, and the position he would have to play for the Mets. Castellanos needs to go somewhere where he can play in a little bit of a smaller ballpark, where those fly balls can turn into home runs, and where he can get a ton of playing time as a DH. That's his future. If you go to the last 5-6 years, there's been very few fielders worse than Nick Castellanos defensively. Actually, if you really go into the metrics when it comes to outs above average, Castellanos is the second worst defender in baseball behind Didi Gregorius. So that is the basis of my argument. But let's get into the good stuff first, right? Why would Castellanos make sense? What is it about him that makes him such a prime free agent this offseason? Well, this is a guy who has put up numbers throughout his career. He was drafted in the first round by the Detroit Tigers in 2010 out of high school, made his debut in 2013, came up as a third baseman. Eventually, the defense was so bad there, they moved him out to the outfield. And if you look at what he did throughout his Tigers career, he spent parts of 7 seasons in Detroit, hit 274, 324 on base, 459 slugging. This is a guy whose numbers would pop a little bit more 10 years ago when we didn't care as much about on-base percentage. It was all about, the home runs and the batting average. He's done that. He's had the extra base pop throughout his entire career, roughly averaged about 30 doubles and 20 home runs per season when he was in Detroit. Then in 2019, he gets traded to the Cubs mid-season. This was before he was set to hit free agency for the first time. In Chicago, the dude was awesome. In August, after the deadline, Castellanos hit 348, had 11 home runs, 20 RBIs, 9 doubles to go along with a 385 on base percentage and a 713 slugging percentage. Then in 51 games, or overall, I should say, in 51 games with the Cubs that season, he hit 321 with 16 home runs, 36 RBIs, and OPS just over 1,000. Again, he was awesome. Signs as a free agent with the Cincinnati Reds, gets a 4-year, $64 million deal with opt-outs after the 2020 season and the 2021 season. 2020, very solid year, not great, but good. This year is the season that Castellanos wants to hit free agency after because it was by far the best year of his career. First time he ever was an all-star. Hit 309, 362 on base, 576 slugging percentage, 34 home runs, 38 doubles, and a triple. 100 RBI season, a 140 WRC plus. For those of you who are not aware, WRC plus is weighted runs created plus, which measures league hitters based on an average of 100. So he was 40% better than your league average hitter. Just an awesome season altogether. That WRC plus was tied with Joey Votto for the 12th best mark in baseball. One of the best hitters in baseball this year. I'm not taking that away from him. His WAR this season of 4.2 was the best mark of his career. His expected batting average was 289. That's a metric that tells you what his batting average should be when you mitigate park factors. So that tells you that while he wasn't a 309 hitter based on expected batting average, 289 is still very good. So the Great American Ballpark effect certainly skewed those numbers a bit, as it did with his slugging percentage, which was 576, but the expected slugging was 522. Regardless, the expected batting metrics had I almost said Votto, had Castellanos in the 90th percentile or above in both expected batting and expected slugging. So the bat alone, regardless of the park, is elite. Again, not taking that away from him. His hard hit percentage, his barrel percentage, both over the 70 percentile around baseball. The guy's going to hit. And I don't want to make this an entire podcast about why Castellanos is a bad player. He's not. He can impact winning. We saw him with the Reds be a leader of sorts. He's exciting. He has now a pretty viral home run that we all know about with the Tom Brenneman situation, where we all at times will tweet out, how Castellanos had the deep drive to left field. He is a star, but the thing that I don't like about Nick Castellanos, for one, is that those numbers were skewed a little bit for sure, based on the fact that he played at the Great American Ballpark, where there is a lot of home runs that would be flyouts in other ballparks. And there's also a mental edge you get when you play in such a bandbox that thing Castellanos certainly took advantage of. Look, there is no doubt that Castellanos would be a big boost to the middle of the Mets lineup. I just think that there's other players out there that could impact the team more. And if you're talking about him as a strict replacement for Michael Conforto, someone that's going to be better than Conforto for the Mets next season and beyond, I just do not think that's the case. I don't think that is as big of an upgrade as some people might suggest. And that's what I want to talk about in a bit. I want to go through the home road splits, compare him to Conforto, and whether the Mets would really be getting that big of an upgrade next season. This episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Spotify Green Room is the first social audio platform made for sports fans. The app is free to download, and once you're in, you can talk with me, other fans, athletes, and insiders in real time about your favorite team or sport. Yes, you can finally join in on the conversation you listen to here every day. You'll find fans just like you on Green Room for watch parties, which we did throughout the 2021 season, debates, post-game breakdowns, and of course, reacting to big news or rumors. Go download the free Green Room app now, which is currently available on all devices. Be sure to create a profile, link your Twitter, join the MLB group for the latest league updates, and follow me at Finkelstein Ryan to be notified when my room goes live. I know you won't want to miss it. Whenever there's some breaking news on the Mets, I might hop on a Green Room. I'll see you there. Spotify Green Room, changing the way we talk sports. So I think there's this perception among Mets fans that Nick Castellanos would be a big boost offensively compared to Michael Conforto. And while in 2021 that was the case for their careers over much larger sample sizes, that's not the case at all. Castellanos does have the edge when it comes to batting average and slugging percentage, hitting 278 for his career, 329 on base, 486 slugging. Conforto's batting average, 23 points lower at 255, his slugging percentage at 468. A little bit below that of Castellanos, but the on-base percentage is the big difference. Conforto's on-base for his career is at 356. That is simply a hitter that gets on base more due to drawing more walks. Castellanos is a slugger in every sense. He swings that bat a lot, which is fine. But when you talk about the value they bring to a lineup, there's really not that big of a difference. And actually, if you go to weighted runs created plus, which again measures these hitters based on a league average of 100, Conforto's been the better hitter throughout his career, a 124 WRC plus compared to Castellanos at 115. So you look at those numbers and you say, all right, but what would you see last year? We just saw Castellanos with 100 RBIs, 30 plus home runs. I understand that. But if you look at the home road splits, it is almost a Coors Field effect when it comes to what Castellanos did at Great American Ballpark and then away from Great American Ballpark. Played exactly 69 games, both at home and on the road. And at home, he hit 359, 407 on base, 702 slugging. On the road, 260 batting average, 319 on base, 454 slugging. Massive difference there. At home, 23 home runs. On the road, 11. 72 of his 100 RBIs came at home. And you look at his home run to fly ball percentage. For his career, 14.1%, right? That's home runs out of the fly balls you hit. In 2020, that number skyrocketed to 23.7%. And this year, it was 22.8%, clearly showing that a lot of those fly balls that weren't going out at Comerico are suddenly going out when he's playing in Cincinnati, which, again, is fine. He's taking advantage of his circumstances, but are you going to pay based on those inflated numbers? And that's where I have my concerns. One thing that was interesting when looking over his stats is he had exactly 19 doubles at home and 19 doubles on the road this year in basically identical sample sizes. So those balls that he's hitting into the gaps, they're a double either way. It's the fly balls that are fly outs in other ballparks when he plays on the road that go out when he's playing at home. And that's why, if you're Castellanos, you're trying to come to terms with the Reds on a new contract and stay there. It's an exciting team, a lot of young talent with Jonathan India, the likely rookie of the year. He can be part of a lineup that can continue to progress year over year and really be part of something. And it seems like he really likes playing out there. And why wouldn't you, based on the numbers he's put up? So if you're Castellanos, I think you should understand where your value has been built and try to remain there and enjoy the spoils of playing in a ballpark that you love. And there is a mental side of it as well. If you go through and you look at the spray chart for all the home runs he hit this year, only 2 of them, I believe it was, wouldn't have gone out at Citi Field. So it's not as if he's not hitting home runs well beyond those friendly confines at Great American Ballpark, but it's the mental edge you get. It's this idea that you're playing in a ballpark where you can see the fences right on top of you. I remember when I was playing travel baseball growing up, there's this one season, I believe it was probably when we were like 12 or maybe 13, where you're still playing on fields that are like 200 feet around, and guys are just hitting monster home runs every single at bat, every game. It's 6, 7, 8 home runs. And then the next year you switch and you go to fields that are 300 feet in distance around. And that extra 100 feet is a huge mental hurdle. There were some guys that are hitting 300-foot home runs over a 200-foot wall when they're kids, but then you get that larger field and suddenly it feels impossible to be able to muscle balls up and get them over the wall. I think that plays out at a much different level here when you're talking about these major league players. When you're playing in a ballpark that is just cavernous, like Kauffman Stadium in KC, it's a big mental disadvantage that goes to the batter and a huge advantage for the pitcher, knowing how much space is back there. Whereas when you're playing in a bandbox, you just have that feeling that if I put a little extra muscle into this fly ball I'm about to hit, it's going to go out. And that can result in just better results across the board. But if you look at Michael Conforto and you compare these two players, if Conforto were to switch spots next year, if Castellanos signs a monster deal to come to the Mets, Scott Boras represents both of these guys. Scott Boras, very smart to plant Castellanos in Cincinnati with opt-outs after each season, knowing that he could capitalize and then test the waters in free agency if he signs or if he gets Conforto a similar contract in Cincy. Conforto could hit 40 home runs next year and then retest the market and get a huge contract. If you look at Conforto's spray chart this year, if he had played all of his games at Great American Ballpark, he would have had 6 more home runs. The 20 home run season. Still not great, but certainly better than the 14 he hit. If you go back to 2019, there would have been an extra 12 home runs. So now you're talking about a 32 home run season being a 40 plus home run season. It's a big difference there, and there's a big difference on what you're going to get paid. If you're the Mets in this situation, all I'm saying is don't pay the guy coming off the career year. Identify the guy that can have a career year next year and be a big boost to your ball club, or sign the all-around player like a Starling Marte, we're going to talk about tomorrow, maybe a little bit in the next segment, who can not only hit for you, but play great defense. And that's the other massive problem with Castellanos. He's been one of the worst defenders in baseball ever since he made his debut, but particularly since he switched to the outfield and since we've been gathering these metrics since 2016 when it comes to outs above average. I'll get into that in just a minute. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. Did you know that Built Bar has so many delicious flavors that there really is something for everyone, whether you want the coconut bar, cherry barcia, raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, German chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry, orange, or my personal favorite, cookies and cream. If you haven't tried all the flavors, you can get a mixed box where you'll get two of each. You can see which ones you like best. These really are protein bars that taste like candy bars. They come covered in 100% chocolate. They're soft. They're easy to chew and they're healthy. Built bars come low in calories, low in sugar, but they're high in protein and high in fiber. If you want to try Built Bar today, go to builtbar.com, use the promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off your next order. Again, that's promo code LOCK15 or 15% off at builtbar.com. BetOnline is back and better than ever, now featuring a new web interface for the start of the basketball season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile site to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit just by using the promo code Locked On. From basketball, football, baseball, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Bet online where the game starts. So the one thing that really scares me about this idea of signing Nick Castellanos is the fact that he would have to play outfield on this Mets team, and he is just not a good defensive outfielder. In the 2021 season, he was worth -7 defensive runs saved and -6 outs above average. For his career, since they have been tracking this metric, which began in 2016, Castellanos, the second worst defender in baseball. You have Didi Gregorius at -72 outs above average at shortstop. I hope he's back with the Phillies as the starting shortstop next year. I hope they don't get a Correa or a Story or a Seager or a Simeon. Please go back to Didi and please keep him at shortstop. It is just doing wonders for the Phillies when it comes to their path in the NL East. But you got Castellanos right behind him at -56 outs above average. Then number 3 on the list, Daniel Murphy, who didn't even play this year, retired, -50 outs above average. And then 4th on the list, Jonathan VR, -47. Kyle Schwarber, -40, tie with Brad Miller. All of that is to say that Castellanos is not a good defensive outfielder. He wasn't a good defensive third baseman. He's a hitter. That's what he is. And as a DH, it is a fine signing for any team that can carve out those at bats for Castellanos. So maybe the Mets can. The problem is this is still a roster that's broken. And if you want to try to fix it in one off season, it's going to be very tough to get positive value on all of your assets and build a sustainable winner. Yeah, you can just cut bait with JD Davis and Dominic Smith, but their value's at an all-time low right now. Davis had a good enough year that I still think you might be able to trade him. Dominic Smith, I still think there's a perception of him being a possible starting first baseman for another team that doesn't have a Pete Alonso in his way, that there's still an opportunity for the Mets to move on from these guys and extract some value. But to move on from both, I don't know if that makes the most sense when you're trying to win next year. And they're still cost controlled, positive bats, even though Dom, of course, had such a down year. The bottom line, though, is if one of them's around, that is a possibility for your DH spot. You still have Robinson Cano, who we talked about a couple of episodes ago on Locked On Mets, where I talked about how he could have a pretty positive role for the Mets this year. And part of that is going to be playing at the DH spot for, who knows, as many as 100 games possibly. So you don't have enough DH at bats to go around for Castellanos at least next season, and you don't want him in your outfield. Not to mention Mark Vientos coming through the pipeline, who is very similar to a Castellanos, a guy who has a lot of pop, who has a bat that's damn near close to being MLB ready, but you don't have a position for him. So keeping DH open for Vientos is also something the Mets should consider. I'm not saying you go into next season and you plan on Vientos being a starting player for you. But what I would say is the way that teams use DHs nowadays, there's not a lot of David Ortiz's that are just going to be penciled in as a DH for 150 games in the American League the way it used to be. Now the DH is a position that allows your roster to be flexible, that allows you to put a hot hitter in the lineup, that allows you to take a JD Davis and plug him at DH for some games, at third base for others. A game that if you want to get Pete Alonso off his feet, you can play him as a DH. That is what teams are using that position for nowadays. And so to sign a player to big money just to be your DH, it doesn't make a ton of sense, especially when you have bat first or even bat only guys coming through your pipeline and you're talking about the long-term flexibility of this roster. Castellanos, who might get a 5-year deal or more, do you really want to lock yourself into that? Not to mention, you have Francisco Alvarez coming up the pipeline. This is a kid that honestly, I still have said it before, and I'll say it again. Throw him in an MLB game right now. I would not be shocked if Francisco Alvarez had a double and a home run. He's just that talented as a hitter. He still has to develop as a catcher. He's still young, still can't legally drink in the States yet, but he's coming and he's coming fast. It's not next year, but the year after that, could we see Alvarez? Potentially. And I'm not saying that you make any of your roster decisions based on an Alvarez who's still years away. But what I will say is when we're talking about locking up a DH for 5 years, I'd prefer to keep that DH spot open to sign someone like Starling Marte, who can at least play the outfield for you, play a really good outfield too, by the way. Keep your roster flexible so that when an Alvarez comes up, you still have a clear path for a bat first catcher when you still have maybe a Tomas Nido as his backup, where Alvarez could potentially get 40 or 50 games at a DH. I just don't like the idea of locking up anybody to be a DH long term. That is a position that I see that can be very flexible to use multiple guys and work your way through a full season. So, with that said, when you're talking about Nick Castellanos, who a couple years ago, coming off nowhere near as good of a season, signed a 4-year, $64 million deal, he's going to be looking for more than that. He's going to be looking for, if I had to guess, at least 5 and probably a 9-figure contract. How high that number climbs, I mean, if it was 5 for 100, you're talking 20 million a year. If you go beyond that and he gets 25 a year, that number keeps climbing. I just don't think that is the best use of the Mets resources. I would sign Starling Marte, even at an advanced age, to a similar contract because he just fits this team so much better with what the Mets need this offseason. And that's what we're going to talk about on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Mets, why Starling Marte is sneakily my top free agent target this offseason. But that's going to be all for today's episode of Locked On Mets. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Prospects, hosted by my guy RM Layton. Locked On MLB Prospects is the best place to go to learn about the stars of tomorrow. Follow Locked On MLB Prospects wherever you get podcasts.